chat, and then we'll be hosting the Q&A session after the presentations. I shall repeat that a little bit later when we have some more online, but that's the way it's working at the moment. Don't disturb if you can't see yourself and only us. That's the webinar format. We've reached 95. Great.
Chris Holmes is invited.
Thank you, Bill. Good, I can see lots of familiar names, at least from the Cips Switzerland community. And the great thing about webinars is I can also see lots of new names from different parts of the world, different people. So we're extremely happy that you can all join us for this event. It's 1 minute past 7 o'clock. We have a tight schedule, so I'm going to start with the introduction. Quickly, I'm going to repeat that if you have a question for one of the presenters when they're presenting, or generally about Agile procurement, please pop it into the chat. Bill Young's collecting those questions, and we will try to use some of those questions as content in the Q&A. That's the plan at this particular stage. So let me go to share, and I am going to put my screen here. Hopefully it is on a nice big picture of Zermatt. If someone of the panelists confirm if they can see my slides. Yep. That's fantastic. Thank you, Bill. Greetings and welcome to everybody. Well over 120 people that have already joined as attendees, and we are pretty confident there's going to be some more joining in the near future. Thank you for joining the Cips Switzerland branch webinar. Tonight on the topic of Agile in procurement, and provocatively we ask the question, is it just talk or is it reality? Through the course of the evening, we hope to show you that there are indeed several really interesting organizations that are having it certainly as part of their reality. So what we have as an agenda is a quick introduction on the warm-up from myself. Then we're going to go into overview of the status of Agile in procurement presented by Mirko Kleiner. And then we will start into the bits that probably most of you want to hear and see, is the presentations from 6 different companies, ranging from Russia to Australia, global airlines, e-commerce giants, industrial manufacturers, even a casino business as part of that. Huge diversity of organizations that have already started to embrace the Agile methodology. And then, as I've already mentioned, there'll be a Q&A session at the end. And if you do have a question for one of the panelists, please use the chat function in the Zoom meeting. One of the colleagues will be collecting those questions during the course of the event, and we'll weave that into the panel Q&A session. So that's the plan for this evening. I just have 2 slides left as part of the quick introduction. Many of you on the line might not be that familiar with the Cips, the Chartered Institute of Procurement and Supply. You might not know it's the world's largest professional purchasing association with actually closer to 70,000 members around the world. And what does it do apart from sharing best practice like we are this evening? There is an education and qualification avenue to Cips, and a whole variety of networking and opportunities for us as a community to ensure that we become cutting-edge professionals. Cips Switzerland has been around for a couple of years, and next year will be its 10th anniversary. Time flies. We do have in Switzerland over 400 paid registered subscribing members. So that's 400 out of the 70,000 that I mentioned earlier. Small country, as you know, Switzerland. And our LinkedIn community, if you look for Cips Switzerland in the LinkedIn tool, have over 2,000 people, so quite a large community of people in that context. Now, pre-pandemic, we used to handle and host roughly 10 to 12 face-to-face events per year, with a nice community of anywhere between 40 and 100 or so people joining. Those events were a 50-50 mixture of best practice exchange, like we're doing at the moment, and then networking, face-to-face over a glass of wine or something like that. So if you want to be tempted to go and get yourself a glass of wine or whatever is your favorite tickle, don't hesitate to do that and keep yourself refreshed in order to emulate that element. Of course, with the pandemic, we're using digital tools. Webinars is not quite as user-friendly as the face-to-face networking, but it does give us the opportunity to network much further outside of Switzerland for an event like this evening. So pros and cons, of course. So last little slide from my side before we move to Mirko. A little bit of a reflection of the Agile journey per se from a Cips Switzerland perspective. Just about 4 years ago that we at a Cips Switzerland level first heard about lean Agile procurement and Mirko and some of his clients as they attended a Cips event in Zug, Switzerland in 2017, as you can see. We then had Mirko actually give a presentation at one of our events a couple of years later because he and one of his clients had won a coveted and prestigious Cips Europe award. So they talked about that particular business case. And in the meantime, at the end of 2020, there's been a second award given to a lean agile procurement client, one of the speakers, SwissCasinos, this evening, which will also give the podium to and a chance to talk about what they did and why they deserve to win the award. So we thought with all of that together, wouldn't it be a great idea to do a refresh on the status of Agile in procurement? And that nicely leads me to the next subject and for me to hand over to Mirko, please, to yourself.
Thanks, John, for having us, for the introduction, and just for your great support. I mean, not just yourself, but also others that are following and supporting our movement. And it's my great pleasure to be in between the more interesting 6 cases tonight to give you a short inspiration overview about the state of agility in procurement and supply based on our report or studies we've recently done. And we have done that. I also want to thank to the co-author of this report and study, Tim Cummins, the president of the International Association for Contract and Commercial Management. So it's kind of the competitor of Cips, but we don't see it that way. This study has been supported by 12 more alliances from supply chain, agile, lean space all over the world. And it's my great pleasure to hopefully, just look back what was last year and hopefully inspire you guys what can we do better and what can we learn from Agile and what do others even beyond the 6 cases we hear tonight. So before we start with the numbers, and we're going to do that in a bit of a different format, I'm going to have a conversation with John about some of the numbers. I want to introduce for the ones that have no clue what is Agile with this one slide. So, and I think most of you have encountered this situation in person. So if the car is your business and you're just approaching, driving into the fog, and your market is currently very foggy, uncertain, you don't know what happens, then your business is currently, it's no option for slowing down. So John, what can we do if slowing down is no option?
You put me on the spot there, Mirko. That wasn't pre-prepared, as for sure, and I like the question, right? I guess there are a couple of options, including visibility. trying to make sure that the key people that should be involved are involved, making sure that, in effect, if you can, although that's even more a stretch in fog, that you have the end customer in mind, right? So the car in front of the car, to avoid the potential multi-car crash. Those are a couple of things that come to mind.
Yeah, so just to extend that, we definitely need faster feedback from the market. So is there another car? Is there a child on the street? And we as a business need to adapt, not quickly, but immediately, right? So immediately. So it's the very first time that I'm drawing on the slide. So my apologies for my bad writing. So if that's your business, so what means agile in terms of business or business agility, as it's called more often in the past few years? So it starts definitely with the people. So if we ask the people, a lot of people say, yeah, I'm agile, I'm flexible, I'm adaptive, I'm all for more feedback, etc. But in terms of procurement, it's also, oops, sorry for that. It's also about how are our processes, how about our governances, policies, how about our contracts, and how about our partners, no matter if they are internal or external, right? So true business agility is everything of that. So it's not just being flexible as a person. So let's deep dive into the numbers. So obviously, with the help of this 13 global alliances, we have global coverage of data, not just from the procurement side, but also from the supplier side. And that's for the very first time. That's
1 second, Marco. There's been an interruption of the slide share. People can see all of us, but not what you're meant to be sharing. Thank you.
Thank you. Apologies for that.
Yeah, let's come back. Very good.
So, yeah, so let's deep dive into the numbers. And so first things first, business agility has been recognized not just last year, but even before as of strategic importance on the executive management. And our numbers just confirm that it also has been important to procurement executives. So all the things we've discussed about in driving into the fog, enhancing the ability to manage changing priorities, but also being much faster to market, the obvious ones, innovation, etc., are definitely reasons for why businesses are adapting to Agile. Now, what do you observe? What might be different to other more traditional reasons from the past? So, John, back to you.
Well, a quick thing that springs to mind is the competition is not slowing down. That's getting faster. So time to market, might be a nice thing to have, because if you get there quicker, you harvest a bit more profitability. But it's a mantra for staying competitive. It's absolutely not essential.
Absolutely. Yeah. And what I was wondering is that, the more traditional reasons like risk reduction and cost reductions are still there, which makes sense, but they are no more at the very top. So where are we up to in terms of Agile? So other functions, they are already, on a higher maturity level, and we could confirm that, and that's not a surprise. So you could see that majority is still on a very early stage. They maybe did some first successful pilot projects, or they started to transform just their functions. But very rare of the businesses are even including their partners, because procurement is on the edge to the whole supply chain, and that's maybe your first note you could take. If you start Agile, please do not forget your partners, because everything is connected and it will become even more connected. So in terms of Agile practices that people start using in procurement, there's also no surprise. So the more traditional ones, Lean has been there for years. So a lot are experimenting and extending the usage of Kanban. But if you're new to Agile, have a look at Scrum as another good practice to operate a cross-functional team, for example. What is also no surprise is that those are all traditional and standard good practices from IT, where everything evolved. And there are very rare approaches that are specifically designed for procurement, like lean edge procurement. So this already got a high coverage and seems to be one of the approaches to get more agility in procurement.
And Mirko, exactly to your point, just quickly highlighting that all of the participants that are on the line will be sent a link to this report. And since, of course, time is rushing away, I know that Mirko's just going to focus on one more key slide so that we can get to the business cases. And like I say, folks, this is a very, very interesting report, very hot off the press news, and you'll all be sent a copy of it.
Yeah, so one last thing, and then I'm going to close the main aspects of the report, and that's about Agile contracts. So the foundation of each partnership is also having a contract in place, and there is, the more agile our partnerships get, no matter internal or external, there is a need also to adapt the way how we contract. And that's also not a big surprise that currently there is not yet so many experience around in the traditional procurement folks, and there is definitely a need to grow the knowledge in that. So yeah, there is one more slide. So let's talk about the benefits. So what I was learning about procurement is that your folks are interested to support increasing the outcome of the business, and that's exactly what the reports also is saying, what could be achieved, and also the other aspects, time to market, and even beyond. We could even improve the satisfaction of the team members, the procurement professionals, but also on the vendor partner side. Right. So what have the respondents reported as their three most strategic priorities? They will catch up, and one is, and that was a surprise, is education, to train their employees in more agile way of working, and they also said we need to catch up with the rest of the business, who often is already in an agile transformation, and obviously digitalization, all of you folks have been into that already. So my conclusions on that, so there has been or still is a gap between the strategic importance and the action that have been taken. So we need to close the gap. The benefits of adopting Agile are significant. I think we don't need to talk about that. We're going to hear some real-life examples right afterwards. And I also want to emphasize with the Agile contract. I know it's boring contracts, but this is really the foundation of each partnership. And as said, this is there is no way back for procurement. So new normal just became the benchmark. So if you want to know more about what it is, want to deep dive into the details of our report, just visit leanedgeprocurement.com, and we're going to send you also a detailed link to our report where you can download it for free. So thank you very much for listening. I hope that was inspiring, that you can see that it's not just our 6 cases, it really became a movement. And back to you, John.
Well, thank you very much indeed. I think from a kind of public domain perspective, people were hearing but not really seeing. And there's been the occasional thing from some mainstream consultancies. If you Google Agile procurement, there's very little hard business literature out there. And that's why we were so determined to put this particular event together. And as I mentioned right at the start, we're going to have a huge variety of different cases from different organizations, different geographies, different categories of spend. And as I mentioned, we're going to kick off with this award-winning case from a company a little bit close to where we are sending this from in Zurich, Switzerland. And we're going to start with SwissCasinos. And we're going to hand over to Daniel. Please, Daniel, welcome.
Thank you. Hi, everyone.
You share your slides and then we'll be in great shape. There it is. Thank you.